Hello, this is Andrine, a Jewish American priestess, and today I'm bringing you a reading during this very first week of Shevat, the month where we celebrate the trees. Since we're early in the month, I'm going to establish that the reading today is about seeds. What seeds are we planting? What are the seeds that we plant hoping to produce? What kind of, when those seeds are under the ground, what are they gestating? What's happening right now underneath that? And we're going to do a 3-card reading today, and I'm going to start with choosing a deck from my bowl of slips of paper that have all the decks on them. I've got 2 that jumped out. I'm going to take the one that landed in the bowl. So the deck that we're working with today is the Divine Pleasure Omer Oracle. Well, that should be interesting. Let me get that deck. All right, so this deck is created by Rav Kohenet Teamashir and Kohenet Becca Star. And it's an oracle for Sephirotic liberation. So we're talking about planting seeds, so somehow that seems appropriate. This is a deck that is graphic in some ways and talks about respecting one's own body and the pleasure of one's body. I haven't worked with it tremendously much, so let's see what comes out. I'm gonna set these off to the side so that we have space. And let's pull out 3 cards and see what comes up. That one really wants to come out. We'll start with that one. And these are intended to work with the Omer, which is the time of year where between Passover, the liberation at Passover, and Shavuot, where we receive Torah. So there's this waiting period. And it's also perfect for this particular reading because it's a seed time where we're under the ground and we're waiting for something to be born. So we have 3 cards here. Okay, let's see which 3 cards we have today. We have this one. This is card number 1. This is card number 2. This is card 37, but it is pile number 2. And for pile number 3, we have this card, number 34. Wow, so they're all quite different. I would just take a moment to determine which of these 3 cards is calling to you today with regards to a seed that's being planted right now or a seed that's under the ground gestating right now and what it hopes to birth in the world. And I will see you in your reading. So card number 1. Let's take a closer look at your card. I love this. It's a big giant heart. You can see the mouth and the tongue inside and these hands on either side as well, reaching out to receive whatever it is that is coming their way. And for as far as seeds go, that's a wonderful thing. Just being open. This particular card corresponds to the very, very first day of the Omer. Chesed Sheba Chesed, which is expanding heart within an expanding heart. Opening wide, being ready to receive. Chesed is the foundation of love, And Chesed, Shevat Chesed is love within love. So expanding heart within expanding heart is the first message you're getting for the seed that you're hoping to plant, or that is gestating underground right now. And I'm going to pull out 3 Hebrunes and then 3 Nordic runes as well to go with this card today. So let's see what comes up. Coming down from the top, we have the letter Ayin. In the center, we have the letter Gimel. And at the bottom, we have the letter Dalet. And then for Nordic runes, let's pull out 3 of those and place them on the opposite side. So at the top, we have the letter Degaz. In the center, we have the letter Fehu. And at the bottom, we have Yira. Nice. So the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to zoom this in a little bit so we can see better what we're looking at here. On the left side, at the top of our reading, this is the position of what is it that is coming down from the divine? What is the central issue? So we have the situation with open heart within open heart. Chesed, Shevat Chesed. And the letter that's coming down from the top is Ayin. Ayin is the letter that represents an eye in Hebrew. So it's about seeing. It's about seeing your way forward. It's about being able to envision what it is you would like to see in the world. And this is really wonderful for a seed reading, because right now when things are dark and cold, when the seed is underground, sometimes it's difficult to see, but it is important to envision, even if you can't see exactly what's going to happen. It's important to visualize what you would like to see in the world and be open to what comes. The letter Ayin is also about being watched over by the divine, trusting that the divine is looking over the situation, assessing, taking care of that seed while it's under the ground, and being able to see. The divine can see outside of time, so what's coming, even when we can't see what's coming, divinity can see what's coming. So trusting in that I think is the major message of the letter Ayin here. Right now, what's happening in this situation of having an open heart within an open heart, trusting with love, with chesed, that there's compassion for you, for that seed that's underground, and for whatever is coming. And it's our job to visualize what we would like to see in the world so that we can be prepared for whatever comes, but put our intention out there, put our intention into the world to say, this is what I would love to see right now, and I'm open to whatever is coming next. On the Nordic runes side, we have the letter Degaz, which is interestingly similar. It's the letter that means the breaking of the day. It's like the dawn card. So the sun is coming up and we are able to see. We are able to see suddenly everything that is coming toward us. There's a breakthrough of some kind that sheds light, like again, the rising sun, the breaking of the day, shedding light on whatever darkness has come before. So in this time of year, when the sun is starting to come up a little bit earlier in the day and setting a little later in the northern hemisphere, when the sunlight is reaching through the dark earth and even the snow to shed light, infrared light beneath the soil, because it can penetrate through many, many layers of soil, even though it's still frozen out. That infrared light is hitting those seeds that are just under the surface. So Degaz, really appropriate also here as we are envisioning what we'd like to see, we have also the opportunity to have a breakthrough, to know what it is we would like to see, that there's an awareness, an awakening that's happening even under the surface. It gives us the power to make decisions in the moment, even when it's still in the seed coat, even when the seed is still underground. So I love that those two are so similar here. In the center of the reading, on the left side, we have the letter Gimel. This is the position in the reading of what is a fear or challenge right now for you. And the letter Gimel is the letter that represents a foot or a camel. So it's about stepping forward. And that makes sense, because here we are in this time of year where we can't see what's happening. We can't really discern whether that seed is going to grow or not. And so there may be some fear around stepping forward. Also, it's pretty icy out where I am right now, so stepping forward swiftly might be a little dangerous. So there's a fear or a concern about stepping out, that maybe walking forward might present a challenge right now even. I don't know why my camera is going in and out of focus. I'm guessing that it has something to do with this reading. We can't see our way right now, so it's difficult to step forward. I think that's really fascinating that that's what's happening with our autofocus right now. So it's difficult to step forward because we can't see, even though the heat is coming, even though the dawn is breaking. It's still pretty dark and it's still pretty slick out there. So Gimel, which represents sort of quick movement, it's about walking forward quickly toward justice. And maybe we can't see our way forward to justice. Gimel rules over the planet Jupiter in the sky, which is tzedek in Hebrew, which means justice. So we're running forward. We'd like to run forward toward justice, but we're a little afraid to do so because we don't know what that's going to bring for us. It could be really challenging to step out. So that makes sense. I mean, in the time of seed, when we don't know how things are going to play out, it can be very, very challenging to step forward, and there's a valid fear there. On the right side, in the Nordic runes, we have the letter Fehu as our fear or challenge. Fehu is the letter that means wealth and worth. And to that end, I'm thinking that this is representing a fear about our own worth. Do we deserve to have success? Do we deserve to have abundance in our life? And not just financial wealth, but, wealth in terms of satisfaction in our careers or satisfaction in our relationships. Do we deserve to have happiness and comfort in our lives? This is what Fehu is about. It's technically cattle, but it's the stuff that you tend in your life. So if you tend a herd of cattle, you'll get a herd of cattle. If you tend a garden of flowers, you'll get a garden of flowers. If you tend seeds, seeds will grow. And since this is in the position of the difficulty or challenge right now, maybe we're feeling we don't have that worth, that we somehow are not deserving of any potential growth that's coming. And that's also a valid challenge. It's sometimes really hard to feel worthy of the goodness that the divine wants to bring for you. But I think what we're going to discover here in our next set of Hebrunes and runes is that we do deserve that. That fear, is going to be resolved in the final letter here. So on the left side with the Hebrunes, our outcome letter is Dalet. And Dalet is the letter that means a doorway. It's about transformation and liminal spaces, walking through to the next thing. So we've had this fear about stepping forward because we can't, because everything's underground right now. We're not seeing perhaps what it is that is growing because it's under the ground, but we want to envision that, right? We want to see that forward. We're a little bit concerned about stepping out, but the outcome is the doorway. The delta of Venus, which is the representation of the feminine genitalia, is also here in this Dalet. So there's something about birth canal, like that bursting forth through the ground that the seed does when it grows. This is that doorway. This is that opening that happens. And it is about being humble on some level too, being humble and recognizing that we have to duck our heads sometimes in order to step through a doorway because we don't want to bash our heads on the top there. So the dalet is coming. The doorway is coming. This transition is coming through. If we can remain open, if we can have our chesed, Shevat chesed, remain open with our open hearts within an open heart, keep our mouths and our arms and our hearts open, we will be able to pass through that doorway and something new will be born. That's that seed. In some ways, just noticing the dalet looks like the ground at the top here, and there's something trying to push through. It's not quite through yet. It's in that middle space. And as we go through a doorway, a lot of times in a Jewish home, there'll be a mezuzah, and we can touch in with that as we walk through to remember that the divine is with us. We can carry the divine with us through that doorway, that they are watching over us. And on the Nordic rune side, despite the fact that we have this fear about our own self-worth, the outcome letter is Yira, which means harvest. So perfect for a seed reading. That Yira is about, it's the root of the word year, and so it's about cycles and seasons. But as those cycles and seasons come around, there is harvest. And we can trust that the harvest is coming, even if we don't feel we deserve it. There is something coming. It's a 1-year cycle, but it's about reward and gain. It's about fruitfulness and happiness. So even though we might have a fear or a challenge around whether we deserve what is coming, the Yira rune is saying, yes, something is coming, the harvest is coming, that the sun has broken through, that it's warming the earth, even if we can't see it, that our fears about deserving, our fears about worth can be pushed aside because harvest is coming. And for a seed reading, I think this is a beautiful set because you've got the envisioning that's taking place despite the fact that we cannot see the seeds underground, that the dawn is breaking through and the sun is coming, penetrating deep into the earth. That if that seed can remain open for the light that is coming in, then it will produce what has been planted. We can't always see what's planted, but we can plant with our intentions. We can plant with our visioning. That even though it may be challenging to step forward right now because we can't see our way, because there is a little bit of a slippery ice out there, that we don't know what's coming, we can trust that the divine is watching over us and step forward with confidence, knowing that there's compassion in chesed, Shevat chesed, that there is this open heart, that if we present an open heart, the divine will present an open heart back to us. There will be justice, and we can step through that doorway. We can come through out the other side. And that despite our fears about our self-worth, despite our fears about whether we deserve what is being gestated underneath the ground right now, again, remaining open, having our open heart, trusting that the light is nourishing that and that we deserve what's coming through because the harvest is on the way. So this is a beautiful reading, and I am so happy for all of those of you who chose it, that we have the ability to remain open in these situations, and that harvest is coming. We will pass through the doorway and be born anew, whatever that seed that has been planted has established and will grow. So I hope that you have a beautiful first week of Shevat. Meditate on that seed. Meditate on what it is you want to see in the world. And feel for the breaking of the dawn. Go out into the sunlight in the morning if you can and receive some of that juice, some of that blessing. And we'll see you here soon. Hello, card number 2. Let's take a look at your card here today. This is really beautiful. It's purple, which I love as a deep color. And we've got what looks like a nervous system here. Dendrites reaching out from a neuron cell and hearts at the end of each of those branches and roots. And for somebody who's planting a seed, this is a really lovely image too, because we've got what seems to be the seeds of thought or emotion coming, and it's flourishing in the hearts at the end of each of these. Let me read what is in this book on number 37. So this represents the 37th day of the Omer, which is a 49-day cycle. So this is late in the Omer cycle, and it represents Gevurah Sheba Yesod. Gevurah is boundaries or stringency, strength, and Yesod is foundation. So strength within foundation. It's in this booklet, it's the word that comes up is optimize. Use your strength to establish a foundation, establish roots perhaps. The phrase in the booklet is strong holding within aligned activation. So they're translating Yesod as aligned activation. It is this penetrating deep taproot. And the strong holding is that boundaries within aligned activation. And so for me, as I think about that in terms of the seed that you've planted or are planting or nurturing right now, that seed is attempting to establish roots. And it's important to maintain its integrity while it does so, that it can't just burst open and start growing. Right now it's 17 degrees out where I am. It would be inappropriate for it to do so. So there has to be some kind of boundary around that growth in order for it to be successful in the long run. So establishing maybe just a little bit of a root at first. Because if we put out roots too early and then a frost comes, those will die off and it might kill the entire seed. And that's the first message I'm getting for you for this reading today is maybe it's time to take it slow, to have some good boundaries around whatever seed you're planting. Let's pull out some Hebrunes. We're going to start with three Hebrunes, and then we're going to do 3 Nordic runes as well. So at the top we have, wow, interesting, the letter Yesod. Sorry. It's the letter Vav. And I said Yesod because it looks like that root. It looks like that foundation that I see Vav as being representative of Yesod in the Omer. So I said Yesod and I meant Vav because it's the same feeling for me as I see that. It's so fascinating. All right, in our center position, we have the letter Aleph. And at the bottom we have the letter Mem. Interesting. Okay. And let's get some Nordic runes down here as well. At the top we have the letter Nauthes. In the center, we have the letter Iwaz. And at the bottom, we have the letter Berkana. Really similar. All right, let's take a look at each of these. So at the top, as I said, on the left side, we have the letter Vav, and Vav is the letter that means and in Hebrew. It's about connection. And you can see that it looks a little bit like a sprout and a root that has gone down. It's really similar to this card, right? You've got this seed and these things sprouting at the top and this penetrating taproot. Yesod is sometimes seen as the phallus of the divine, right? It's this penetrating phallic symbol that's a taproot that goes into the earth and nourishes and produces growth. So the central issue here in this reading is connection. It's connection. How do we connect, right? Connecting with heart and establishing good boundaries is what the card is about. The card is about having good boundaries around your connections. That we're trying to establish foundation of something. We have to do that not just with love, but also with good boundaries. Those boundaries are a symbol of love. So connection is what's up. And that connection is both connection with the divine and connection with ourselves, as well as possibly a connection with another. But first and foremost, connection with the divine. You can see at the top of this letter, we have that little tiny yud, right? The yud, which represents the divine, the seed, the seed itself, the yud he vav he, the beginning of becoming. And vav is establishing a root then. It's establishing a connection to the earth. The divine establishing a connection to the earth. Connecting two things together. Tethering a tent to the ground, like a tent peg. Or connecting the veils around the Holy of Holies. The veils, which are these boundaries that protect that which is sacred. So there's something that is up about connection. Something that's up about that those tools, those little pieces that we use to protect, to set up boundaries around these pins, these things that hold things down. And that's the central issue for this particular reading. That and the concept of optimizing, holding strong, again, holding with a firm pin or a tent peg, with the aligned action of what is the big picture. And on the Nordic runes side, we have the letter Nauthiz. And Nauthiz is the letter which means need, attending to your needs. So what is it you really need in the world? Not what do you want, but what do you need? And tending to those needs. Sometimes those needs can be really urgent, and sometimes they can just be taking care of your body in a long-term established way. Taking care of your health. Eating nourishing food. Getting an adequate rest. And that will be the thing that provides the strata for having that optimization. Having, again, good boundaries around sleep. Having good boundaries around food. Exercise, all the things that one does to take care of body needs and emotional needs too. Taking time to connect with the divine, taking time to connect with oneself. So connection and needs are what is up right now within this optimization card. Let me see if there's anything else about Nauthiz that I want to say. Yeah, it's about constraint. It's interesting because this card is Gevurah, which is constraint. As I said earlier, it's boundaries and strength, but also restriction on some level. So there's some kind of maybe caution and or even conflict, but we perceive constraint as a negative thing. And in fact, it's completely necessary for growth. Like I said, untethered growth can lead to early demise. So tending to the needs of the situation and whatever connection one is working on, making sure that those boundaries are established really well before bursting into some kind of growth. And that's really essential for a seed right now. Our challenge on the Hebrew side is the letter Aleph. And that's fascinating. Aleph is the number 1, and it represents breath, right? Breathing. It's the lungs in the body. It's air. So the challenge right now might be just sitting and breathing, taking time to connect with the air, connect with the divine. Aleph is sometimes seen as a connection of above and below, connection of the divine above and the earth below, and that there's a Vav right in the middle of it, right between, right? Again, looking very much like this neuron that has that connection and these growths coming out of either end. So there is difficulty right now, maybe connecting with the divine, maybe seeing the big picture, seeing the oneness in all things. It's very easy to divide and to see that how things are different, and it's much more challenging to see how things are one, especially when we're having a challenge with a conflict or attempting to establish boundaries. But it is about the chest and the lungs, and then maybe just something really simple like difficulty breathing right now, difficulty exchanging breath with the trees. And maybe you're at a crossroads as well. Sometimes I see the Aleph as a crossroads. So maybe this is a time in your life where you're trying to make a decision one way or the other. What direction do I go? Kind of being in that middle space as you travel on your path. As you travel on this path, which of these directions do I go? The Aleph can manifest in that way as well. So that's the challenge right now with this connection is, how do I breathe through it? How do I sit maybe in meditation and feel the breath? And then trust that I will know what direction to go when the time comes. On the Nordic runes side, we have the letter Iwaz, and it represents a yew tree. Yew trees are notoriously slow growing, so the difficulty on the Nordic rune side is patience and steadfastness and slow, steady growth. Very similar to this. You can see, again, that shape with the dendrites coming off the top and the bottom. How do we grow, but in a stable, established, long-term, sustainable way, not rushing off and growing willy-nilly so that we burn out and frizzle in the next bout of weather that comes through. So perseverance and patience, endurance, strength again. Strength, because the yew tree is notoriously strong as well. So the challenge right now is strength and endurance as we take care of our needs and optimize the situation, what we're trying to establish here with the strong holding within aligned activation. Gevurah, Shevat Yesod. And our outcome letter on the Hebrew side is the letter Mem. So as we're challenged with breathing and we're challenged with finding the oneness in the situation, we come to the Mem. The Mem is the mother letter of water. It's about gestation. It represents a womb, and it's the number 40, so it's the 40 weeks of gestation. It can be a very long gestation. It's about the mother holding within her the seed and allowing it to grow in right time. And it can take a long time. We may need that endurance very strongly here, because it is about gestation and taking all the time that is necessary. You don't want to have a birth that is premature. You don't want to have a birth of an undercooked seed. So the outcome is gestation, and it's not birth yet. It's gestation. This connection that is the major issue and the challenge of the oneness and finding the balance of above and below comes to the finality of a gestation where there's more waiting that will happen, because we're not at the place. It's not the time for things to be born. It's the time for that gestation to continue happening. And the Mem is about transformation through water. So there can be cleansing, like a mikveh, and or just that amniotic fluid that's within the womb. But there's some kind of transformation, some kind of growth. This also almost looks like an embryo, right? So you've got this nervous system that starts, and then things grow out from there. So this is inside the womb right now, gestating. On a more esoteric level, it represents the deep, the waters, the unknown, the emotions. The wandering 40 days in the Sinai while we're waiting for Torah, the wandering 40 years in the wilderness, listening, trying to learn the voice of the divine. The being adrift for 40 days of rain on the waters, the floods that came engulfed in that womb of the ark as Noah was floating on the waters. And it can have to do with emotion and grief, particularly tears, wet emotions. So something is coming through this optimization that is going to bring about transformation through water. Meanwhile, over on the Nordic runes side, we have the letter Berkana as our outcome. Berkana, which means birth. It's very, very similar. It's the birch tree, and it represents new growth and new birth. It's the birch goddess. So the Asherah that lives in the birch tree. So it's new beginnings, renewal, birth and rebirth, spring. And fertility, Berkana is all of those things. And it can have to do with family of origin as well. But in this context, I'm seeing it as tending to one's needs, enduring the challenges here, and then coming through to similarly birth, a newness is coming, a transformation, a new growth. So these are really similar, sitting on this card of optimization, this card of strong holding with aligned activation. We have this central issue of connection, this attempt to establish a root, a taproot, and the importance of having good boundaries around that, not growing too quickly. That we have to tend to our needs, take care of our bodies, take care of the needs that are presenting themselves to us daily. That even if there's this liminal space of having a difficulty seeing the big picture, having a difficulty breathing, having difficulty sitting through with meditation, maybe not knowing which direction to go at these crossroads, that it's important to endure, that endurance is challenging for sure, that it is really essential, though, to have that strong boundary, to wait it out. And when we do, we'll come through to a gestation and a birth. That there may be still more time to wait here before the birth happens, but it is coming, this transformation through water, through grief perhaps, or just going into the deep darkness of your own emotional self. And in the end, we get the birth goddess, we get the birch, the new beginnings, the spring is coming. So for those of you who chose the optimized card, Gevurah Sheba Yesod, strong holding with aligned activation, this has been your reading. I hope that you found it interesting. I hope that your seeds sprout in right timing and take all the time they need to grow. And I will see you here next time. Hello. Those of you who chose this third card in our choices today, we have this card that is number 34. We'll take a look at it. It looks to me like it's two worlds, but also two breasts. And there is this connecting bridge between the two of them. Let's read in the book to see what it says. Number 34. This is, as I said, a card from the Omer Oracle. And it represents the 34th day of the Omer, which is Yesod Shebachod. And it says, portal between worlds. So there's a portal between the worlds, and it stands for aligned activation within gathering power. So let's pull out some runes and Hebrunes to see what messages we have for your seed that's been planted here. We'll start with 3 Hebrunes. And we have the letter Ayin. Lamed, and the letter Samech. And for our Nordic runes, we have at the top Wunyo. And in the center, we have the blank, Weird, the name of that rune. And at the bottom, we're looking at Soilo. Nice. Portal between worlds. So we're talking about seeds here. And the seeds that we've planted or are planting or are nurturing right now underneath the ground, they need to grow in order to come into fruition. And to that end, the Yesod, Shebachod, is that establishing root with endurance, aligned activation within gathering power. So the seeds under the ground gathering power, and it will soon establish its taproot. And on the upper left in our reading, we have the letter Ayin. The letter Ayin is the letter that represents an eye, being able to see our way forward. What I'm also noticing about it is that it looks a little bit like a couple of seeds. Right at the top there, we've got two yuds, and those seeds have established a root. It's actually common root, interestingly. So it's almost as if the seeds have grown together. And it's about being watched over by the divine and being able to see, having some vision. It's also the number 70 in Gematria, which on some level represents a completion, because 7 days of creation times 10 gives us 70. So it's an ultimate manifestation of completion. Something is completed here. Something is over right now. This represents the month of Tevet in the calendar, which was last month, and it's over, right? So Tevet is over, and it's the month that has this connection with the constellation Capricorn and the tribe of Dan, which is about judgment. So some judgment has taken place and something has come to an end. And we can see that, maybe. We can see that with our eye, that we can trust that we were watched over by the divine as this ending has come about, that perhaps there's been some judgment, some final judgment that's taken place. So it's fascinating that Ayin is here at the top in this reading about connection between worlds, because we've got this connection between heaven and earth, and between perhaps a couple of people here in this card, that we've got this duality here, these two seeds that have connected in the middle, and yet something maybe has come to an end. Connection between the heaven and the earth, connection between inside the earth and outside the earth with growth. These seeds connected underground, and yet when they come above, they have disconnected. And there's my chime, which is, like I said before, an exclamation point on whatever it is that's just been said. So there was a connection underneath, and as they sprouted up, perhaps the disconnection happened, a separation. Being able to see now something that was hidden, perhaps. So that's what's up right now. And on the Nordic rune side, we have the letter Wunyo. Wunyo is about joy. So this ending isn't necessarily a sad thing. That now maybe that we can see the separation, now maybe that this connection between the two worlds has come to light. This connection and division, maybe they can grow in separate directions. There's joy, potential for joy, and joy in the reality of it. Wunyo is about harmony, well-being, about fellowship, but also self-worth. So not just joy in connection, but joy in one's own self. I think that's really essential here in this card. A portal between worlds. Aligned activation within gathering power. Maybe that power is coming from the understanding of one's own self-worth. And then as we look at the challenge in our situation, on the left side we have the letter Lamed, and the Lamed is about the heart-mind. So maybe we're having a challenge with our heart and our mind fighting with each other. The Lamed is about connection as well. It's about connecting up with the divine and down into the earth as well at the same time with our hearts and with our minds. Reaching up with hope. And maybe that's the challenge right now. It's difficult to see the hope in our situation. There's been, I get the sense of a disconnection happening. And so how do we hope our way forward in this? Can we connect with our hearts and our minds? What have we learned? Lamed corresponds to the word for learning and teaching in Hebrew. So what are we learning here? What have we taught ourselves, or what have we been taught? What are we digesting? This is the intestines in the body, so maybe we've taken something in and now we're digesting it. And it's a little bit challenging. We're absorbing what we can absorb out of the situation. We've eaten something, and now we get to extract the nourishment from it and release the rest. And interestingly, Lamed corresponds to the Wunyo rune in Hebrew. So there is joy and self-worth, but there's also challenge. A challenge with the lifted heart. A challenge with taking in what we've learned and letting go of the rest. On the Nordic rune side, our challenge is the blank. This is the word weird, is where this rune is the one that gives us that word, W-Y-R-D. Weird, fate, the unknown, the blank. So the challenge here is we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen next. There's some fate that we cannot see. There's this infinite possibility. At the same time, there's the infinitely unknown. So we cannot know what we do not know. And that can be really fearful. That can be really challenging right now. To not being able to see our way forward. Not having any idea what's coming next. And kind of being left in the blankness of a situation. But we have self-worth, and that's useful. And there's this portal between these worlds, right? There's this portal between the unknown and the known, between what we've learned and what we can teach, what we can see and what we can't see, between self-worth and hope. All these portals that connect. On the Hebrew side, our outcome letter is the letter Samech. And Samech is about a wheel. Samech is about cycles. The cycles turn and seasons change. So our outcome here is knowing that the wheel continues to turn, that it will not be like this forever. Samech is also a thorn in the Proto or Paleo Hebrew, so there's some agitation here. There can be a lot of agitation with that turning. Maybe we have a stone in our shoe or a nail in our tire here. The wheels keep turning. There's cycles. And we need to understand that cycles come and cycles go. This is not a forever thing. Samech is also the word that means surround. Sovev, to be surrounded with comfort and protection. So to know that we're protected and surrounded by the love of the divine, even when we can't feel it. Perhaps we'll have the opportunity to be surrounded with family and friends, support of a variety of kinds, even if things are thorny, even if things are agitating right now. And Samech is also about boundaries. So setting up good boundaries is what may come out of this situation. That if something has come to an end and we're having difficulty hoping, maybe the best course of action here would be to set up some good boundaries for the future. And on the Nordic rune side, we have the letter Sowilo. Sowilo is the sun, it's source. It's the source energy. It's guidance, wholeness, awareness, hope. It's tapping into connection with divinity, tapping into the source power, the sun. Maybe getting out into the sun, feeling the penetrating rays of the sun so those seeds that we've planted can grow. Trusting that the source has our back, that the sun will rise again, as it does every day. Again, like those cycles and seasons, it will not always be dark. That the sun rises and the seasons change and it becomes warm again in the world. So even though we've come through a period of the unknown, one thing we can trust in, so far, the sun rises every day. And that's the connection between the worlds too. The portal between the worlds is that sunlight that comes down from the sky. The connection, the enduring of the sun, that gathering power that is source energy. And our activation can come from that. Our self-worth can come from that and also contribute to it. So with regards to our seed time here, something has to come to an end in order for growth to happen. The seed has to stop being a seed in order for it to become something else. So endings can be challenging, but know that you're watched over by the divine. If there's been a split, know that that's a rooting, that may be a portal between the world of the underground and the world above that allows for growth. Lean into self-worth. Find your joy in the situation. Really know that you matter. That maybe you're that portal between the worlds. That you're the one gathering power right now. And even if there's challenges with the heart and the mind, with emotion, with hope, even if there's challenges around that, digest what you need to digest. Connect with the unknown. The unknown can be frightening, but it's also the opportunity to go deep. The challenge is there, but you have the potential. You have the power. You have this gathering power, this connection, this portal between the worlds. And our outcome here is being surrounded, watching the wheel turn, and also knowing that boundaries are an essential part. That sometimes they're thorny, but it's an essential part of setting up protection for growth. That seed that's under the ground needs to be protected in its seed case, and then it bursts forth. That the sun, the source energy, will nourish and help that growth happen. That our portal between worlds is strong. That we can really lean into that as the cycles and seasons change, as the sun returns every day and becomes stronger and stronger as we move toward the springtime. So for those of you who chose Portal Between Worlds, this has been your reading for your seed time. I wish you the strength of aligned activation within, gathering power. Hold fast. Cycles are turning. And we'll see you here next time.